Good evening, Canterbury. Welcome to NewsMakers. This week's show is dedicated to one of the region's most critical natural resources. Yes, water. How do we manage the demand and supply of our region's most precious natural resource? The Canterbury Water Management Strategy aims to usher in a new era of collaboration between town and city, as opposed to the division, the suspicion and the all-out combat that has erupted in recent years. Over the past few weeks, a public consultation exercise has been underway with a 16-page booklet being delivered to households across the region. Chances are you have received one. You have 1 week left to tick the boxes and write a submission. Well, joining us are three members of the strategy's steering group: the Chairman and Mayor of Ashburton, Bede OMalley, Regional Councillor Eugenie and the Chief Executive of the Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce, Peter Townsend. Thank you very much for joining us. We have a lot to get through in half an hour. First up, how did this strategy come about and why do we need it, Bede?
Water's been the issue in Canterbury for decades, and the droughts in the late 90s focused our attention on how can we do things better. Is storage necessary to maximise the use of this resource? And over the past 6 years, the Mayoral Forum has directed a working group to progress this strategy. In 2002, it was a collaboration between MFE, MAF and ECan. And it was at that stage in 2002 that the Mayoral Forum took stewardship of the strategy.
Now, this isn't just a think tank or a talk fest. This is going to lead to implementation, right, across the region's councils?
We would like to think so, but the current situation is the Mayoral Forum doesn't have a statutory authority, but it's our desire that the strategy we come up with is implemented in the region's statutory process. That's ECan, the various TLAs, and if we get the blueprint right, then that will feed on to national policy statements coming out of central government.
Sure, because I noted even in the budget on Thursday there was a passing reference to the fact that water management is on the government's agenda. So you don't see any pitfalls in the interface between, central government imperatives and what you guys are trying to achieve?
We've made a huge amount of progress in the last 6 months, and that's been due in no small part to the incentive central government has given us, the work with, the interface between various government agencies, MFE, MAF, Ministry of the Environment, etc., etc. So we've had a huge amount of cooperation out of government agencies.
Peter, just from an employer's and general economic perspective, why do you think this strategy is quite central to the future of Canterbury?
Well, look, we've been saying for a long time that this is the most critical issue facing Canterbury for the next 30 years. How we get our water right in this region is fundamentally important. Working out those tensions between the different uses of water, the value we place on water, where water lies and how we allocate it. How do we tap into it? They're all fundamental issues to the future of this region. And we've just got to come together and get a consensus on the right way forward. And I fully expect that if we do, we will get central government support and it will create a model that can be adopted throughout the rest of New Zealand.
Eugenie, no doubt many viewers will think, yes, Eugenie Sage, she was elected to the Regional Council on a very strong water protection ticket. Do you think it is truly feasible that the economic imperatives and the environmental imperatives can dovetail? You can strike a balance.
Well, I think that's the strength of the steering committee, because it's got those diverse points of view around the table with the Water Rights Trust, Fish and Game, Forest and Bird, our regional councillors, the territorial authorities. And it's what we're finding at the stakeholder meetings too, that there's been quite a range of views expressed. Everybody is working in good faith to try and see where the consensus lies on water management, what degree of storage is appropriate, how we restore some of the environmental values in terms of over-allocated catchments. But we're trying to see where that consensus lies.
All right. Now, we are going to flesh out some of the general and topical concerns that flare up around water a little later on in the program. Before we go to the break, in the next 3 minutes or so, we're going to do a very quick walkthrough of the 4 options that the wider public, including your good self, are being asked to consider. Option A, continuing to improve the current approach. What does that mean?
Well, we've got the status quo at the moment where it's first in, first served. There are some improvements through industry-led and efficiency in using water, but it is quite adversarial, and a lot of the feedback we've had is that people don't like it being played out in court, things like Central Plains, where you've got a lot of community division.
Option B, advance environmental protection before developing significant infrastructure.
That's the environment-led option, with the focus in the short to medium term on environmental restoration, recognising that some areas like our foothill streams like Selwyn River have been over-allocated. There are major water quality issues. So looking at how we restore those values and then moving to consider infrastructure after that.
Option C, changing existing consents and infrastructure to ensure an integrated surface and groundwater approach. I suspect this one is the one that could be a bit of a head fest, in terms of complications. Can you shrink it down for us?
It's probably the most ambitious, and it does require quite significant legislative change. But on the high plains at the moment, near the foothills, you've got people with wells 100 or more metres deep taking groundwater. It's probably better that they take surface water so that closer to the coast people can take groundwater with more reliability. The emphasis here would be on improving efficiencies through things like piping, and any infrastructure would be top up in addition to those gains that are made through efficiencies.
Okay, and option D, advance infrastructure with strong requirements for environmental repair and protection.
Well, that is the storage-led option, with the recognition that the financial gains that would come from irrigation development and major storage schemes could assist with environmental restoration.
Now, I know that in the submission process and in the booklet it is spelled out to the wider public that in addition to those 4 options, you can do a bit of mixing and matching if you want. So if you want a bit of B and a bit of D, sort of coexisting, that's fine. If you've got a fresh option E that you would like to share, you can do that. Just personally, on the personal front, do you have a personal option that you prefer? Peter?
No, well, look, I wouldn't be prepared to say my personal option at this stage because I think that would be unfair on the community. This is all about getting opinions from the community, and I don't want to lead them. We've got 4 options that can be considered, and let's see what the community come up with. I suspect, though, that we won't get a pure choice. I suspect it'll be a mixture of the options.
A hybrid.
Yep.
Yeah, all right.
And in those hybrids,
Yep.
the environmental sustainability principles are fundamental to whatever option we put forward.
Okay.
So that's a given.
All right. We will enter some of the debates that flare up in water wars very shortly. Do stay with us.